and what their reading habits are and what their listening habits are. I could care less about them. I would rather spend more time studying a sewer mosquito than the millennials. It would be more interesting to me to study a Drosophila in a petri dish than a millennial. They have about the same mentality. In fact, the Drosophila probably has more dignity than an average millennial today who grew up on medication and Microsoft. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Your Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com. It's the only company I trust for tangible assets, gold and silver. Call 800-BUY-COIN. Are you... Welcome back to the Savage Nation. So just to continue my meanderings, I told you after the show, walking around San Francisco, I run into a street patrol officer who I've known over the years who will absolutely remain anonymous. And he tells me that there's a new directive coming out of the San Francisco Police Department where they're told to absolutely not intervene in any instance with minorities unless it's a life or death situation. He said fundamentally the police chief has put out a hands-off policy on minorities committing mayhem or crime unless it's life-threatening. He said, we are now the new Baltimore. And he says to me, Michael, what is going on in this country? How could they cater to the mobs like this? He said, we put our lives on the line every day to keep the city safe. And now we're told not to do our jobs for fear of getting sued by these vermin lawyers. And then he points out a restaurant, I won't mention where, and he says to me, this man also owns a restaurant in Rome. And the man just came back from Rome, and he said there are no Romans left in Rome. He said it's all Muslims. A Roman who lived in Rome his whole life, who has restaurants here and there, came back saying he's appalled at what he has seen with the burqas, the head coverings. The Muslims have invaded and taken over the ancient sacred city of the Christians in Rome, all because of the psychosis of liberalism. And if you think that when in Rome, do as the Romans do is something that the Muslims are going to follow, wait until you see what's coming in your lifetime, all you genius millennials who think that life is just a bowl of cherries because you grew up on medication and Microsoft. You have no idea what the world is in which you live. And soon you will find out how they will treat you and how your liberalism will be accepted by these wonderful individuals. Here in the United States of America, Lynch, you know who she is? She is the new monster put into the Attorney General's office by the Republican Party. Loretta Lynch, who, as you well know, was a monster in New York's Southern District Court, was handpicked by Al Shakedown Sharpton. Al Shakedown Sharpton lobbied for this woman to become the top cop in the United States of America. And what is she now doing? She's expanding her global prosecution powers. The courts are now becoming international law enforcement arenas, according to the report that is linked on the Drudge Report. Loretta Lynch's first duty is using foreign law in the United States of America. That's what she's doing. That's exactly what she's doing. Remember the soccer case? The surprise case last month? When the so-called Attorney General Loretta Lynch announced that Brooklyn prosecutors had indicted the FIFA officials from the other side of the world on corruption charges? What was that our business? Why would that matter in America? When we have gangs roaming the streets, when we have a border broken by the president, when we have a Department of Homeland Security that's working for the other side, when we have an FBI that's more concerned with returning war veterans and crimes they did not commit than Muslims sitting here planning to kill us. According to the FBI, they said that they're in 50 states ready to strike. Was that just another fear tactic meant to intimidate us? And by the way, going back to my first point of the hour, if my allegation is correct that ISIS is our factotum army and we're allowing them to rape, kill, murder with impunity, blow up churches, is that the future of America? A Christian-free zone? Is that the vision of the Bilderbergs?
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE. Savage. Warning: The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of unprotected talk, borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
When a finalized plan is presented to me by the Pentagon, then I will share it with the American people. It's not, we don't yet have a complete strategy because it requires commitments on the part of the Iraqis as well about how recruitment takes place, how that training takes place. And so the details of that are not yet worked out.
Liar, pants on fire. Okay, so we know that he's a fabricator. He's never said an honest thing in his life. That's why he was selected, handpicked by the rich, powerful white liberals in Honolulu to become president. He wouldn't be the first liar in the president's office, nor will he be the last. But this is a special case because America is being taken apart at the joints, and a 9th century army is committing atrocities across the Middle East, and we're sitting here watching this. So I allege that America, you, the American people, have enabled ISIS to commit its atrocities. I say you because if you're gay and you don't speak out against Obama's cooperation with their rampage against individuals in the Middle East, then you're cooperating with throwing gays off roofs. I say you, the feminists, because if you're not saying a word about the kidnap and rape and enslavement of young girls and women, then you are, in essence, the good Germans of today. That's what I said in the first hour. And I frankly believe it, or I wouldn't have said it. And so when Obama says we don't have a strategy, you know he does have a strategy, which is to cooperate with ISIS behind the scenes. I mean, what is the strategy? Think about it. Does he really want to kill people and rape and murder? Of course not. That's not what I'm saying. They're using this factotum army, which is Saddam's former army, by the way, which I saw from the get-go. This is an army run by the old Republican Guard under Saddam, who was let to stand. This is the old Saddam army, now raging across the Middle East. It's far more virulent than it was under Saddam Hussein, because it has no opponents right now, and it's being enabled by the United States and Israel, in my estimation. And so in that way, it's more dangerous. There are no controls over it at all. And what's even more interesting is that Saddam Hussein protected the Christian minority community in Iraq, while these throwbacks are decimating Christian communities, Yazidi communities, etc. I don't understand how you can't see what this means to you. And so we're talking about that. Let's go to some of the callers. Scott on WJR Radio in Detroit. Go ahead, please.
Hey, I got to tell you, for somebody that I listen to all the time, that I think is right most of the time, you couldn't be more wrong today if you tried. If you were any more wrong, you'd be Hillary's running mate next year. I'm the biggest conservative on the planet, and because I live in Detroit, I live right near Dearbornistan, and I live near all these people that have come to this country. I am not a German, and that's kind of a kick in the teeth to all the people that went over there and fought and died for their freedom that they won't fight for. 2 weeks ago, on Memorial Day, I got up, watched the morning news, and found out that the Iraqis had ISIS outnumbered 10-1, laid down their arms, and walked away. And if you won't fight for your freedom, you don't deserve to have your freedom. Ramadi is about the same size and population as Kansas City. Can you imagine somebody going in and attacking Kansas City? We go in to take Kansas City back from them. We outnumber them 10-1 and lay down our weapons and say, screw it. Let's go to Canada. These guys are used.
Well, I think you're missing the bigger point. The bigger point is that we are enabling ISIS. Isn't that what you heard me say?
10-1, and they walked away.
Well, you're making your point over and over again, which is that Iraq didn't defend itself, therefore everyone should die. But you're certainly not justifying the rapes and murders, are you?
No, I'm not justifying, but if you won't fight for your own freedom, Why are we sending our men and women over there? You know what? I had.
Well, I didn't say send men and women over there. We have an Air Force representation over there, and they're flying overhead, looking at targets and not firing rockets. Why did we not even fire rockets at that 1/2 mile parade of their pickup trucks? I've been asking for 4 weeks.
Man, I am all for bombing the daylights out of them. We had an enemy in this country one time that flew airplanes into buildings, cut people's heads off, fought to the last man, and wouldn't do it. We bombed them into oblivion until they dropped to their knees and begged us to stop bombing them. Listen, man, I turned the place into a parking lot. I live where these people are from. Why would they fight? He waves more of them into our country. You know, you can fight. You go fight. You can get yourself hurt. You don't want to do that. Screw that, man.
No, but I don't think you're hearing me clearly. I didn't say we should put boots on the ground. I said we should put bombs on the ground. And we certainly could have bombed their convoy 3 weeks ago, couldn't we, in their victory parade? And for that liar in the White House, that double-talking fraud with his booming voice, to get up there and say we don't have a complete strategy, when we hear from the Air Force that the poor men flying in the fighter jets overhead are being told not to fire a weapon because the girls in the Pentagon won't give them permission in between their gay sensitivities training, between dating their girlfriends and their boyfriends, the nightmare that he's created.
With you. You know what I don't like? I don't like smart weapons. You know these ones like if you want to put a bomb in the 9th window over on the left on the 14th floor, but you put it in the 6th window on the 9th floor, it's a war crime. I don't like that. I like when we darkened the skies with B-17s and laid about a 10-mile patch across Germany.
I understand it sounds good, but then we would be killing more Christians and more Yazidis than they are killing.
I'll tell you something about the Christians. Let me tell you something. I live in West Bloomfield, Michigan, and you can look this up and Google this. There was a church that was broken into, a Chaldean church broken into up on Maple Road. It was broken into the Sunday night, Monday morning of Easter. And they went in there because they knew there was extra money. Do you know who went in and broke into the Chaldean church? It was Chaldeans. If they won't respect their own culture, how can we expect them to respect ours? I don't care what they are. Stay over there and fight or don't come here.
So you would rather see all of them kill each other, is what you're saying?
I'd like to see them fight for their own freedom. I'm sick of us sending our money, our equipment, our men, and our women over there. I started to say this a minute ago. I watched this thing on Memorial Day weekend, and I was so angry I had sweat running down my back. And you know what I watched 2 hours later? I watched the Indianapolis 500. And at the beginning of that show, they had a video on how they escort a body home when it dies. And a C-5A lands on the ramp in Dover, and the ramp drops down for their own freedom.
Okay, but we're not disagreeing. I said, don't put boots on the ground. I said, put bombs on the ground. And I am alleging that Obama has created a factotum army in ISIS. Obama and Israel are doing this in order to bring down Assad. They're playing the old British game of divide and conquer. That's my allegation. And I don't think that we have to now say kill everybody in the Middle East in order to stop this rampage. That's my point.
Was that we're all Germans watching this happen. I'm sorry, too many of us went over there and died for people that won't fight for their own freedom. I'm sorry, and I live in the middle of it. And if any of your listeners don't like what I have to say, you get your butt to Detroit and go to Dearborn, Michigan. You live there for a week, and then you can point your finger at me.
So what you're saying is you live around the Muslims and you see what they're like? Is that more or less what you're saying?
I think the problem where this has become confused is that we think it's the Muslims and we confuse it with the Christians are over there. And I'm telling you, it's one and the same culture. Different religions, one and the same culture.
So you say it's not Christian Muslim. You say it's a Middle Eastern mentality that is retrograde, that is disturbing you.
And we go over and we create a problem and say, well, these people are Catholic and these people are Protestant and these people are Lutheran and these people are Baptist. Screw them. It's all the same team. And the Chaldeans broke into their own church. And that's just one example. You don't have enough hours in this show to go on with it. I live here in the middle of this stuff. I live here in the middle.
So you see an invasion of America right in front of your eyes, and you see purgatory coming to America.
Yeah, we just wave more of them into the country. Let me tell you.
Well, let me do this for you. Are you a father? I hope you are.
No, I love my children so much I didn't have any. They